This is Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, and we are looking ahead to CFL Week 10 action in the Canadian Football League. We have a game on Thursday, two on Friday, one on Sunday for Week 10 in the Canadian Football League. Let's start with BC taking on Ottawa. A matchup of two teams looking to bounce back from just awful performances last week. I mean, both of them losing badly at home. Ottawa losing 43-19 to Montreal. BC getting clobbered by Calgary 37-9 in that battle of first-place teams in the West Division. And boy, both of these teams definitely looking to bounce back in a big way on Thursday night. And a very interesting quarterback battle. This should be one of the best quarterback duels this week. Ottawa has made a quarterback change. Henry Burris, the 41-year-old veteran who's also struggled since returning from injury, he has been benched. Trevor Harris is back, ready to return from injury, and he will be the starting quarterback. He was named the starter by head coach Rick Campbell earlier this week. I think it's a boost for Ottawa's offense. I respect Henry Burris, the great career he's had in the CFL. He's a hell of a guy, nice man, but boy, it was time, I think, for Trevor Harris to take the mantle. He has been flat out the better of the two quarterbacks. So I don't fault Rick Campbell one bit for going to Trevor Harris. He has been absolutely spectacular this season. I don't think anyone can deny that. Just tremendous. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, an 82% completion rate. Just ridiculous numbers for Trevor Harris. Might take him some time to get that chemistry back after being injured for a few weeks, but I still think he's the better choice. BC's defense has not been the same. I mean, for the last several weeks, they have really had trouble. They have been giving up points in bunches, something that they were not doing earlier in the season. And a big reason why is because they've had just a ton of injuries, especially in their secondary. I mean, you look at this defense, they gave up 44 to Calgary, 38 to Hamilton, 37 last week to Calgary in 3 of their last 4 games. Not very good on the defensive side. They've got issues in the secondary. They already lost TJ Lee. Now they're down Stephen Clark, who got injured last week against Calgary. So that secondary is very short-handed. The defensive line's been banged up a little bit. They may get Michael Brooks back this week, but still, that D-line dealing with a couple other guys out as well. So just hasn't been the same defense. I think when they're all healthy, this is one of the best defenses in the league. But with all these injuries, and especially a leaky pass defense, a short-handed secondary because of those injuries, it's been a little bit of a vulnerable BC defense, maybe one that Ottawa can pick apart. But on the flip side, I mean, I think BC's offense is much better than they showed last week. They had been on fire. They had scored 40, 41, 38, and 45 points in 4 straight games before last week, where they got shut down and held to 9. I think Jonathan Jennings, the dual threat QB for BC, he's going to have a bounce-back performance in this game. If I play this game, I'm going to look BC plus the points. They have been terrific off a loss this season. You look back, their 2 previous losses, they bounced back with a win and a cover in the very next game. I don't like betting against Trevor Harris, so it's a lean to BC. It's not a strong opinion. BC at a plus 2.5 right now. I think the better play might be over the total in this game. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's 2 great quarterbacks. 2 suspect defenses, BC's especially due to injury. So I think the over probably worth a look, 56.5. It's a high total, but it's high for a reason, and I still think it might exceed that. It's worth noting, too, Trevor Harris, he played against this BC team as a member of the Toronto Argonauts last season. That game, 30-27, had 57 points in it. So, 57 cashes a ticket here. So, kind of like this game to go over the total. Friday, we've got Winnipeg taking on Montreal. Montreal laying that aforementioned surprising beatdown over Ottawa last week, 43-19. But the problem is, every time Montreal's won a game this season, they've come back and lost the next one. 0-2 straight up and against the spread after a win this season. I don't know if I trust them to build off that win. I really don't. I mean, it's just a team that they have that one good game and then they stink the joint up again that very next time out. Kevin Glenn especially. He's a quarterback that as soon as you think he's back on the beam and has a good game, he ends up having a subpar game next time out. So I have a trouble trusting Montreal in this spot, especially as a favorite here in this game. A small favorite, but a favorite nonetheless. They've only been favored once this season against Saskatchewan. Now the problem is, does the bye week for Winnipeg throw off their momentum? This is a team that since Matt Nichols has taken over from Drew Willie at quarterback, they're 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. They've been much better. Their offense has scored over 30 points in all 3 games with Matt Nichols at quarterback. But does that bye week just throw off their rhythm? Because they had been playing just very, very good football in their last 3 games. That's the one concern. That being said, they're probably going to get a little bit healthier this week. That's a good sign. The defense definitely should get some pieces back as well. Maybe in that secondary, although it remains to be seen if either Chris Randall or Macho Harris are going to be able to come back for that Bombers secondary. Either way, I have a hard time placing a bet on Montreal as a favorite. So if I had to bet this one, I'd look toward the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They do have a solid 3-1 straight up and against the spread record on the road. They've been better on the road this season. They've probably been better on the road the last couple years. It's at home where it's been very, very difficult to cash tickets and make money with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So I think Winnipeg gets the win here, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see if Montreal, if they're really back on track. Because if they can beat Winnipeg and win 2 straight for the first time this season, maybe they're on to something. But if they don't win this game, then everybody's going to be saying, same old Montreal. Here they go again. Can't back up a good game with another one. So very interesting to see how that one plays out. Edmonton, Saskatchewan on Friday night. I'll tell you right now, I am not at all interested in laying this kind of price with Edmonton. I know Saskatchewan's been absolutely horrible, but Edmonton's laid more than a touchdown twice this season, and they are 0-2 against the spread in those games. Saskatchewan, pride has to kick in at some point, does it not? I mean, they got absolutely embarrassed by Hamilton, 53-7. In fact, last week I recommended Hamilton as our CFL Play of the Week selection. Hamilton -6 in the first half against Saskatchewan. That one cashed with ease, as it was a great spot for Hamilton. I figured Saskatchewan would struggle, but as bad as things have been for Saskatchewan, 0-4 straight up and against the spread their last 4 games, just losing those games by just incredible margins. I mean, we're talking about, over 100 points they've lost by those last 4 games combined. I mean, just disaster for Saskatchewan. Their offense hasn't done anything. Darian Durant looks a little bit old and a little bit, not the same Darian Durant since returning from injury. The defense, which was supposed to be Chris Jones' strength, that's his background. He's supposed to be this defensive mastermind, and he's been shuttling defensive personnel in and out every game, changing it up, and nothing has worked so far. All that being said, this is a dubious situation for Edmonton. They've won 2 straight games. Now they're back home playing Saskatchewan, a lowly football team that's 1-7. And now they've got Calgary on deck on Labor Day Monday. That's always a big-time rivalry for Edmonton. You got to worry that there might be a little bit of a letdown, a little bit of a flat spot here for Edmonton. They're probably going to need that, Saskatchewan, if they're going to hang within this game or have any sort of chance to compete and win. But it could happen. I am worried about the spot here for Edmonton. There's no doubt. I'm probably going to take some shot here with Saskatchewan. Plus 13.5 is what the current number is across the board. I think Saskatchewan can hang around. It's ugly. It's a team that nobody's going to want any part of. But this is the ultimate buy low scenario right here with Saskatchewan as things are at their gravest for this team. Maybe they pull a surprise here and at least hang tough here in Edmonton. And the last game for the CFL Week 10 slate is Sunday night. Could be the best game of the week. Hamilton against Calgary. These teams met in the Grey Cup 2 years ago. Calgary won it in a close game. 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league with Zach Collaros back for Hamilton, and of course Bo Levi Mitchell for Calgary, who has been terrific in recent games. Should be another great game. Now, Calgary's on a roll right now. 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread their last 5 games. Their offense is clicking. Bo Levi Mitchell makes the plays when the game is close late. That would be the concern here with going against Calgary. That being said, they're off such a big-time win. They just absolutely annihilated BC, their chief rival, for first place in the West Division. You just worry that they're a little bit of a letdown here for Calgary, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see. Hamilton, of course, getting their first win to snap a 2-game losing streak. They had lost to Winnipeg and BC. They bounced back to destroy Saskatchewan. Obviously, it's going to be much tougher going on the road now, facing this Calgary team that is really surging right now. That being said, you look back at what Hamilton's done in Calgary in recent years. They're actually 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 trips to Calgary since 2012, and that's despite losing all 4 games. Hamilton's 0-4 straight up their last 4 trips to Calgary, but 4-0 against the spread. Why is that? Because they've been nail-biters. They've been down-to-the-wire games every single time. Ticats, their last 4 games in Calgary, they lost by 2, 4, 3, and 1 point in those 4 games. Right down to the wire. Every single one of those games. They've been great matchups between Collaros and Mitchell. I think it's going to be another great matchup here. I respect the 2 defenses because both teams have capable defenses, but with the way the quarterbacks are playing on both sides, Kolaros in the 2 games since he came back from injury, and Mitchell, who just tore apart BC last week, I'd be reluctant to bet this game under. I think it might be a little bit high at 53.5 to bet over, but I would still, bet over if I had to, totals-wise. You know what? I've personally had an issue in terms of getting burned going against Calgary a couple times recently. That being said, I'd still lean to Hamilton here, +5. I mean, they've got a great track record in Calgary of playing this team tough, right down to the wire, and at more than a field goal. It wouldn't shock me to see this be another down to the wire game. 2 great quarterbacks going at it. Lean a little bit maybe to Hamilton +5. All right, we're going to wrap up this video for CFL Week 10. We're going to go back and do our CFL Play of the Week for Week 10. We're going to go back to the BC Ottawa game this week for our Play of the Week, and I am going to go with BC +2.5 this week as the Play of the Week. Because I really do trust this team off a loss. They have had 2 tremendous performances in their games following their 2 previous losses this season. I know Ottawa does have Trevor Harris back at quarterback here. I think he's better than Henry Burris. That being said, BC's been great on the road this season. They've been great off a loss. They've been a moneymaker for me throughout the season. And after one terrible game, and it was a terrible game last week against Calgary, don't get me wrong, BC was totally outplayed, outcoached, out-everythinged last week by the Calgary Stampeders. But I'm not going to jump off that bandwagon off one bad performance. I'm going to come right back with BC here this week. That's the Play of the Week. We're going to look at BC +2.5 on Thursday night, rotation number 301 for your Week 10 CFL Play of the Week. All right, that's my look at CFL Week 10. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, and
if you like Captain American football, there's 50,000 dead presidents on the line in this year's Beat the Prick contest. In case you ain't fucking guessed, I'm the prick. Click on the link below for more info. I'm ready to stomp some ass. This is gonna be my best performance yet. So join today. It's free, you fucking squares.